one of the things I'm struggling with is I think portfolio allocation and my risk assessment. I feel like too risky, but I'm not sure what's risky and what's not necessarily because I feel bullish on everything, So I'm just kind of like in the long term, I mean, but that doesn't mean short term bullishness, So I'm kind of struggling with what are foundational pools and how much percentage of my capital I should be putting in foundational pools and what percentage I should be putting into things like, you know, graphene and, graphene arc pools and things like that. And I'm just, I feel like I'm not set in that way where I don't know. I'm struggling with with my risk management, what's risky and what's not, and what might be considered foundational and what's not considered foundational. And that's kind of just a general question I had. Yeah.
I love it. No, I love it. I'm also like using risk and volatile in like equal terms here, right? So it's like, is this a risky pool? It's like, well, I don't know. I really like it. So when you say risk, usually that's like a very negative connotation, right? When you say risk, it's like, okay, this is bad. Is a risky is really bad, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. So I'm starting
Sure.
to use like risk and volatile as like synonyms, if you will, right? So when you're saying graphene, I'm like, okay, volatile risk. You know what I mean? Like it's more volatile, so it has higher upside potential, but then it's also got lower downside potential as well. Bitcoin, okay, volatile, not so much. Okay, not so much volatile, risky. So it's not identical. They're not exact, but they're very similar. So when I'm thinking of your allocation, I'm like thinking of like how volatile is your overall portfolio? If you're asking this question, my guess is that it's probably a very volatile.
Oh,
It's probably moving.
it's
Is it
very,
moving?
it's moving up. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
It's yeah, yeah,
insane.
yeah.
When it's going well, it is pumping, and when it's not doing well, it's
It's
looking bad.
stinging, stinging. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
let me ask you this, Daniel. Have you gone through that risk assessment profile? Justin always brings this up, but have you gone through that? Do you know like, oh, I'm more of a conservative. I'm more of a high risk. I like taking a little bit more risk.
I'm a
I'm
high
more of a
risk individual.
high risk. Okay,
Absolutely. I'm a
cool.
high risk individual, but I'd like to temper that back a little bit, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then have you thought just on a macro sense of like what percentage of each category you would want in terms of low risk or low volatility, mid risk, mid volatility, high risk, high volatility? Have you thought of like roughly I want 50%, 40, have you thought about percentage wise what your ideal
Yeah, I
makeup
was
would
looking
be?
at some of the educational material and I saw
Yeah.
that, the kind of risk profile stuff. And I was thinking like 50% in like, very, safe stuff. And then, you know, the other half could be medium to higher risk. And I guess that's, differentiating between, I mean, I guess I can figure out, I think I know, the real foundational pools like Ethereum, USD, BCP, BTC, USD, Sol USD.
Mm-hmm.
The stable coins. I've been really into correlated pairs. I haven't
Yep.
been in any stable coin pairs at all. And so, you know, determining which ones are, going to be the safer ones and which ones are going to be the safe or less volatile or more volatile ones has been a challenge for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I'm trying to get that set more because I'm on top of it all day and every day because I kind of have to be, otherwise I'll get liquidated or whatnot. But
Yep.
So I'm not sure if you've heard about our accelerator program. That's kind of the program between the UIG and Fast Track. It's small groups where we're helping those groups build DeFi portfolios with way more face time with instructors. And it's for those who maybe aren't ready for Fast Track for one-on-one yet, but they want more support than what the UIG has to offer. I'm going to put a link for the accelerator program in the description below. Check it out. If not, keep enjoying the YouTube video.
or and it's been the past couple days were a little scary. I got close there, but I was able to, make sure I was good to go, and I am now. So, but yeah, so I guess just determining those risk levels and which ones are fit into those categories
Right.
is has been something that's I've been struggling with.
Heard. One more question for you, and then I have a few things here. So, do you have like a in your brain, do you have like, or on your Miro board, if you got one, like what is that target monthly return percentage of like, okay, if I can, my target is this percent per month. If I can hit this, like I would deem that to be a successful
It
month in terms of cash flow. Is there a figure that you
it's
have in mind?
12 to 15%.
Okay, great, great. And then what has it been recently? Have you been tracking that? Like, what is it? Has it been?
Yeah, it's
Is it
well,
hitting that?
last month it was 20%, and
Yep.
this, and then so, but this, no, this month, and I haven't seen it this month, but it's not gonna be that at all.
Yeah. Like down, like it'd be lunch lower
Yeah, much
because
lower. Yeah.
it's out of range. I'm assuming because it's really volatile and all that
Out
fun
of
stuff.
range, yeah, out of range. There's one pool I like. Just went. Pretty much the pool just drained on me. I'm sitting there with. I'm like, I
Oh
think I'm the
shit.
only liquidity in the pool.
What is that? Do you remember?
It's yeah, it was the Q'd AI and AI 16Z.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, yeah, that was probably a bad move, but
Gotcha.
but
Okay,
well, the
and
thing
then
is, I
oh,
put money into that pool, and that's what I'm saying. Volatility. I mean, I put 5 grand in that pool, and it went down to 1,000, but it made 3,200 in fees on the way down
right.
there. And so I was just like, man, so if this, you know, I, I guess all
Yeah,
the
those are
AI
the
coins went back. Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
But
Okay,
and
and
I, and
so
I know and I know that
oh,
one's extremely risky, and so maybe 5 grand. Obviously, I should have rethought that, that
well, this is
amount.
why I like this is why I love that you brought up about like the portfolio allocation because now it's like okay, if you're intentionally making that move because you're like this fits with my overall portfolio allocation plan, I know that it's risky, it's a lot more volatile, so that if it does move like that, it's like okay, well, I've already sort of deemed it to be in that category like intentionally, as opposed to like I don't even know what you know what I mean. Like you're just kind of having different pools trying to do different things here. So you said 50% low risk, 50% mid to high risk in terms of the portfolio
Yeah.
allocation. Are you, do you know what your current portfolio is at in terms of that allocation? Or is that what you're
Yeah.
sort of struggling with? Is like, I don't know if this is
Eh,
low risk
I'm
or
I'm
high
I'm
risk.
pretty sure I'm like 100% in volatile stuff.
Oh, okay.
I
So gotcha. Okay. So that's,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
not.
Oh,
Yeah.
another thing I want to say too, if this is just for everybody, is that if you have a low risk asset and a high risk asset, or a very low volatility and a very high volatility asset, I deem that to be a high volatility pool. Why do I think that? Because if the more volatile asset moves down drastically, you're going to get converted out of the low volatile asset into the high volatility asset, the high risk asset. So for me, when I'm looking at it, like I'm in an AIXBT wrapped ETH pool. For me, it's wrapped ETH, but that's a high risk, high volatility pool. That's how I deem it. Does that make sense? And so if
Yeah.
you're looking at
I'm
it
in the
with that
same pool, and I'm
lens,
like, oh, that's yeah, okay.
so were you like that's more of a low risk pool? Is that how
Yeah,
you were viewing it? Yeah,
yeah,
interesting.
because ETH and
Interesting.
AXBT I think is a solid project, and
No,
I think it's got a
so
future.
different. So this is a little different. Is it a solid project? Yes, yes. But is it volatile? Is there a risk? Is there speculation? Yes, right. So that there's a little bit of a difference between is it a high risk, high volatile asset, and is it a good project? It can be it can be both. Like it can be. I like the project for both. Like I like both of them. I would hold both of them in spot, like
Yeah,
personally. But is it volatile? Is it speculative? Like could it drop by 30% in next week? It could. It very well
it,
could. Right? I mean, all these
it
things
did.
can, I
It
guess,
did.
but it did, right? So that's how I would look at these pools. So when you're assessing your portfolio allocation, look at each one of these pools and go, okay, not both of them, but is there a high risk asset in this pair? Yes. Okay, this is a high risk pool. Is Wrap Bitcoin ETH? Is there any high risk assets in this pool? No, they're both low risk. Okay, that's a low risk pool. Wrapped ETH, USDC. Are there any high risks? Nope, both low. That's a low risk pool. So now you can sort of do this assessment with all your liquidity pools and go, okay, low, high, mid, high. Okay, I am very
Yeah,
allocated towards the high. Like I am, I have 75% in high risk pools technically. Okay, now my goal is 50-50. So now it's like, should you reallocate into a more less volatile, less risky pool? Does that make sense, Daniel, with my approach on how I'm thinking about it?
it does, and I think I was conflating my feelings about a project's potential with its safety, I guess, and it's not. That's not this. They're not the same. You're right. They're not the same. In my opinion on the project's future isn't necessarily the short-term investment kind of outlook.
You can really like something and it still be a volatile asset. I think
Yeah.
volatility is more of a um, comes from more of a factual standpoint, and then how you feel about the project is more of a I'm not using the right words, but maybe one of y'all can
I
help me
know
think of
I
the
know what you
words. But
mean.
it's like more of like a feeling. It's more of an
Subject, like a
emotional. Yeah,
object.
subjective. Thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah,
yeah.
objective. There it is. That's what I'm looking for. It's objective versus subjective, right? It's like the volatility, very objective, very this is what it is. It's a high volatility asset, as compared to the rest of the market. How I feel about it, I really like this project. I think it's got a really solid foundation, the infrastructure. I like the team. I like the tokenomics, whatever it might be. That's more of a subjective feeling towards this. Both are important, but I think assessing portfolio allocation is definitely more of an objective approach. And
Okay,
then, yeah, does that make sense? So let me ask you this, Daniel: Are there
made
any
actual
assets in
sense.
your is there any assets in your pool or in your DeFi portfolio that you are subjectively still not bullish on or excited about? Not excited about is a loose term, but like, is there anything that you're like, man, I don't really care for this one much anymore? Is there anything?
No, well, the queued, all my research points it to be a solid project, but then there's all this, FUD around it on Twitter and all that stuff, and people talking crap about it. So I have my
Twitter.
doubts, but yeah, right. So I have my doubts. That fed some doubts to me, but I've been tracking them very closely, and I feel strongly about what they're doing, and I think they're putting together a good no-code AI agent framework that's going to do very well. And so AI agent framework. So I just
Yep.
so I have some doubts about it, but like I still feel pretty good about it. And you know, yeah, I'm not holding anything that I don't think has a future.
Okay. So another question I asked too is like, if you were to be holding that in spot, meaning you were to just take that, no cash flow, and you were to just put it inside your cold storage wallet, is that something that you would feel comfortable with?
I'd be okay with it, but I wouldn't want to because I want to make money off the money,
Right, of
So
course. So this is great. So then this is for everybody as well. Like when I'm thinking of certain liquidity pools, I think of, okay, if this goes out of range to one side and I get fully converted into this asset, am I okay with there being no renters, to use the metaphor we were using earlier, right? Am I okay that there's no renters in this thing? The answer is no. I'm only in this because I of the renters. Well, if it's in a bad location and there's no renters coming in, it's like shit. Now you're kind of holding the bag, and you're like, oh my gosh. So like, what do I do? Do I have sell it now? If you are okay with holding in spot, okay, there's no renters in here. I'm okay with that. That right there, I think, is another check for it having a spot inside your business, right? Inside of your portfolio. Does that make sense? So
absolutely.
if there's no cash flow coming in with it, are you okay with it? Obviously, it's not ideal. So there's a difference there. Like it's not ideal. You want it to be working for you. You want it to be producing cash flow. But if it's not, are you okay with that? If the answer is no, I probably wouldn't have it. I probably wouldn't have it as part of my portfolio. That's my personal take. For other
Yeah.
people, they're okay with that. Like they're okay with that. And then that's more of a that's much more of a higher risk type deal because I'm much more focused on the APR, the return, as opposed to the actual asset itself. So, anyways, Daniel, I'm talking a lot, but hopefully this is
No,
helping. This is
it
good.
clarified a lot. Absolutely.
Okay.
And so I was going to my thing is I was thinking my strategy might change instead of like
hmm
I
hmm
was thinking of going more of a cash flow strategy and then using that cash dollar cost average into those higher risk things that, I like, those projects I like, instead of like going into a queued AI, queued Sol or queued AI 16Z pool, just go into more of those stable pools that produce, cash flow. And then at the end of the month, I can, or whenever I collect, I can dollar cost average into some of those speculative assets that I really think have legs, and might be have a big future.
So I love that approach. Daniel, have you heard my silly Mario Kart reference?
I don't think so. No.
No, okay. Well, I say it from time to time, and I'll use it here. So with Mario Kart, anybody who's played Mario Kart, it's basically a race. You're racing carts around the track, and there's a bunch of fun things that you can do, right? Well, in Mario Kart, I consider foundational pools, so these more like low risk, low volatility pools, as like the accelerator of that cart, right? So to actually finish the race and like actually place, you don't want to be 12th, you don't want to be last. To actually place up higher, you have to put your finger on that accelerator. Like that is the consistent thing that's going to get you around the track. You don't have to hit any of the boxes. Well, to win, maybe, so maybe it's not a perfect metaphor, but like to finish the race well, like you don't have to use the nitros boost. You don't have to use the boxes. You can finish the race with just foundational pools. But if you so choose, if you see an intentional opportunity to move to the right a little bit, hit the box, and then use that to accelerate you forward, or move to the left and hit one of those blue kind of nitros boosts. It's got like the arrow. You hit that and you kind of zoom forward. Those are now shorter term intentional plays that can zoom you faster, it can push you faster towards the finish line, towards the goal, right? However, to finish the metaphor here, solely relying on the boxes, solely relying on the nitros boost without using the accelerator is not a recipe to win that Mario Kart game. You have to accelerate your car to get around the track. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I laugh sometimes when I say this because my sister is definitely one of those that relies on that bullet. She relies on being last, getting the bullet, and then using it. And it's a very interesting strategy. Never works. Let me tell you that right now. It never works because she's very reliant on that big pump, that big bullet at the end of the game to like try to place, right?
Yeah.
Where I think having a foundational accelerator movement around the track and then intentionally hitting the boxes or hitting the nitros boost to boost you forward. Does that make sense? So I like the approach you just said.
Does.